I want to talk about in this video is having a home base. And I reflect on that today as I travel because what I've learned is having a home base. And when I say a home base, this is mainly related to the RV lifestyle. I've lived in my car for almost 2 years, and I did a lot of research, and I watch people on YouTube who live this lifestyle, whether it's living out of their car, van, or RV. And some of them, and quite a few, have a home base, meaning they have a raw piece of land with possibly some of them have utilities on it. Some of them even have like a little shed or a carport. But in one sense, having a home base is very inefficient. Why is that? Because if you're going to travel, if you're going to spend more than 50% of your time on the road, if you're going to be a snowbird, and if you're going to travel, in higher elevations in the summer and lower elevations and further south in the winter, then you're going to be on the road half of the year, 50% of the time. So it's a wasteful thing, really, to have a piece of land when you're really not going to be there that much of the time. And many people I know that I watch on YouTube that have nice little cute home bases, they're never there. They're there for a couple of weeks and then they get bored of it and they're back on the road. Because what I found is people who live this lifestyle tend to like movement. We get bored, we get anxious, we get uninspired when we sit in the same place for a long period of time. And, that can really be a pause to buy a home base, because when you buy a home base, you're anchoring yourself, and even if every time you leave your home base for an extended period of time, you're going to be like, well, why did I get this piece of land? I have to go back to it. So when you buy a home base, you better really be sure that that's the area that you want to spend most of your time, or it's at such a low expense, meaning you bought the land for such a low dollar amount and it costs so little in taxes and maintenance to keep it up that you can justify not being there 50% of the time. And so, you shouldn't have a home base if you want to be on the road more than 50% of the time. I mean, in one sense of speaking. Having a home base is beneficial if you have a job in one area and you're not remotely, or you can't travel for your job, and, you need a safe, legal place to park, and, that would be helpful. And that would be needed in some urban areas if you're not retired and you're still in the workforce. So there's certainly cases where a home base would help and to make your life a little bit easier. But it is hard to find land to just park a car, even just park an RV. Most townships have regulations against that. Really, the only place you can really buy a piece of land and put an RV on there and it be legal is in an RV lot deeded community. And there's not that many of those around, and there are some, especially in areas I know I look at in Florida. And they're usually going to run you a little bit, around $1,500 a year in taxes, and a couple $100 a month, $200 a month in homeowners association fees. So, and those RV lots can range anywhere from $75,000 to up. If you buy a raw piece of land for like $10,000, $20,000, most of them won't have utilities on them, and they're not zoned for you to park a RV, van, or car. And the RV lots, you can't park a van or car. They are technically, you need a self-contained unit. And many times how it's defined in homeowners associations and the municipalities, self-contained means, it has full hookups, it has a bathroom, it has a kitchenette, it's self-contained. It doesn't mean you have a pee jug. Like in my Jeep Renegade, I got a pee jug. I consider that self-contained. But, technically, by the letter of the law, they don't. And that's, try to keep things in somewhat order. So these are things that, you consider on your home base journey. I think the number one thing you have to consider if you're looking at a home base is, how much time realistically are you going to be in that one fixed area? And does it justify the cost, the ongoing maintenance, and the mental connection to that area for a long-term commitment? Because anytime you buy a piece of property, okay, whether you get a loan to buy it or whether you buy it cash, you're making a big commitment because it's not a liquid asset, okay? It's a hard asset. And yes, it can appreciate in time, and many times it does, but And when the economy is good, yes, you can liquidate it relatively quickly, maybe 60 days or so. But you can't bank on that. And, even 60 days for a nomad, for me, 60 days is a lifetime. That's just how my mind operates. So some people may not look at it like that. And you have to think a little bit long term, and you have to know what gives you mental peace. I mean, for some people, having a home base is just that. It's mental peace. They're really not there enough to justify it. It really doesn't do anything for them. But they have a mental peace knowing that they have one place to go back to if they ever need to. But the other thing with that is a lot of times people get a home base because they say, well, all right, well, when I'm older, I'm going to need a piece of property to stay on because I'm going to be old and I can't really care for myself. But that, as I think about that more, that's kind of like a little bit not true, right? Because if you get to the point where you're elderly and you really can't care for yourself, having your own piece of property isn't necessarily going to be the answer. Because if you really can't care for yourself, you're going to really get checked into a home. If you're at that state of physical condition or mental condition or whatever, that's a lot of people who have homes. They dread like their kids or their caretakers or whoever checking them into a home. I mean, if you get at a point, if you can't go to a campground because you don't have the physical capacity, the chances of you having the physical capacity to be on a piece of property and to drive your car are ill or none. And if they are, you're going to have to be paying somebody, a hospice or something else, to come to your house and basically spoon feed you. So the home base, I know a lot of people like to think of it as like the safety blanket, but really it's an illusion. Like most things in life, it's an illusion. It's a waterfall. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Shout out to TLC. Now, should you chase some waterfalls? I'm not mad at it. I still look at it. I may, get a home base. It has some benefits. Definitely if you have to be in one area. Again, now too, take in context, this is mainly me talking as a single person who doesn't have kids, don't want kids. This is people that are retired, empty nesters, or single. If you have a family, chances are you're not in this lifestyle and it's just not something you're into. But a home base has some benefit because your number one problem as a nomad, there's no doubt about it, is safe, legal parking. It can be found, but it requires constant movement. People who get in this lifestyle like that is cheap, but after a while, they don't like constant movement. But that's what it takes. Constant movement. And, a home base will eliminate some of that constant movement, but then it's a give and take. Then you may get bored staying in one area, and then you may go back to that. For me, there was a mental aggravation, not just financial. There was a mental aggravation from being tied down to one area, seeing the same people, the same stores, day in, day out, for 15 years. Certainly you can buy a home base and sell it in a couple of years, and maybe you'd even make a little bit, but I don't know. Those are the thoughts that go through my mind when I talk about a home base. And so I just wanted to share that with you today, maybe out of my thoughts that I'm just kind of loosely sharing. Maybe you can pick some things out of those thoughts and apply to your own situation, and maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. Because again, each person has their own individual circumstance, their own situation. You should think for yourself, make your own decisions based on what you want to do, not what I do, not what anyone else does. But, we can all grab a little bit from each other and put our own twist on it. So those are my thoughts on a home base. Peace, love. Have a good night. Keep your mind light. Don't let anyone walk through your mind with their dirty feet. You're the landlord of your mind. Don't let your boss, don't let your lover, don't let your friend, don't let someone who said something sideways to you at Starbucks take root in your mind. Kick them out. Forward.